Woo! Okay, Holy Spirit.
Are you recording?
Now I am.
You're recording. Hi.
I remember when you told me love like this, you never know.
Welcome to Dear Diaries. My name is Christine, and I'm going to tell you my story.
So tell me about your childhood growing up.
Much of my childhood I do not remember. I guess as the smallest a child, it was fun. I don't remember much before my parents splitting up. When they split up, we moved to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, to a city called Houghton. And the reason my parents split up is because my father had schizophrenia. He's diagnosed schizophrenic, and he had begun becoming very violent with my mother, with my grandmother, and they feared for our lives. So that's most of what I remember from our biological father. My mother was a pretty absent mother. She tended to hop boyfriends, and if she wasn't hopping boyfriends, it was a hop of husbands. Her second husband was he was the abuser, sexual and physical abuse, and that I believe started around the age of I think it was 6, and it was not so good. They moved us to New Rochelle, New York, and that's when the physical abuse began. I remember, I don't know what my mother wouldn't do for him, but him dangling me out of the second-story window in our apartment building. I imagine probably that things didn't go well there. I remember going to school and having the principals. I was in their office a lot because I had bruises often. Willis was a performer, and he was in theater, and I believe that's why we lived in New York. That didn't work out so well because obviously if you're not making a lot of money, you can't afford to live in New York. So our grandmother moved us back into our family, our great-grandparents' home, and that's where we spent most of our life. After that, we moved back to Michigan in 2nd grade, and that's when the sexual abuse began. Mom worked for the post office, and she was not home very often. I don't recall Willis ever working, so he was the living caregiver.
So that meant he was home all the time.
Yeah, he was home all the time. I don't recall him not being there. I don't recall him not being there at all. I remember us having family parties and lots of the family having tents in the yard. I remember us building forts, and Willis was always there inappropriately with me. Right now I can remember a specific time. I can see my siblings up in the treehouse and Willis with his hands in front of me in my shirt. Yeah. So that went on for a while until my brother Tony, who is one of my dearest friends, he actually got me out of that situation because he told Grandma. And when he had walked in on it, and I believe that was the first time Grandma had heard of it. And Grandma said that he had to leave, or we all had to. That's probably one of the reasons why Tony and I are so close. He was my protector when I was a kid, so I am his now. They obviously got divorced, and Mom disappeared.
How did your mom feel about what your grandma said?
That would be why my mother and I were not friends or anything for a very long time. When they got divorced, I became quite the rebellious child, and I fought my mother, I fought my grandmother. I went to survival mode, and mom not being there, I ended up having to be the mom to my siblings and not having a childhood. So I was very angry. And I was very angry probably up until 2014. And I made a lot of people pay for it. A lot of people pay for it, including my children, my ex-husband, anybody, everybody, my parents, my step-parents, my siblings. I lashed out at everyone. And in return, I got awful health for it because I was, bad. So after Willis and mom were divorced, mom was rarely there, and grandmother used to take care of us. Grandma, we called her SOID. She took care of us. Sometimes I call her Dranny because that was my pet name for her. She was awesome. She and our Oma are the two that actually instilled faith in us, and I believe that's why I'm alive today. Even when I wasn't with faith, the craziness that I still spoke to God. So she would take care of us, and she would have to, because our grandfather didn't care for us at all because we were biracial and he's very old school. Grandma used to have to come over at night after he went to sleep, and then she would dash back across the field to get him off to work because he was an electrical engineer for Ford. She would get him off to work, and then she'd come back, dash across the field again, and get us ready for school and off to school. And that went on for a lot of years. There were boyfriends that came in and out of the house in between. They did not touch me, just Willis did. My stepfather, Kenneth Hunter, he entered in, and he was not, our whole family wasn't a fan of him, but he really instilled values of working hard. He wasn't always nice, but he really, there's not a whole lot of men that step in to 4 children, especially, that was in 6th grade. He finally stepped onto the scene. By that time, you can imagine I was more than a handful. I was more than a handful. And he taught us the value of working, and there was no excuses. And it was hard. And probably a lot of us, we all had a little bit of mental abuse there because he was hardcore. But he was raised one of 14, so he was hardcore for a reason. His mom, I'm sure, had an iron fist. And so he had an iron fist. But at the end of the day, he loved us. I don't care what anybody says. Wasn't always nice, but he was always there. He was always there for the birth of all of my children. When my mother passed away, he was always there. So even in his worst, and out of respect for him, and he's deceased, and because I know he did his best, I won't go into that, but he did his best. Sorry. Yeah, Kenny was the man that got me through high school. He had me do track. I hated running track. I hated it so much. He totally hated that I loved music. He hated it. He said I was wasting my time. High school was hard and it sucked for me. I did not have a lot of friends. The friends that I did have were very, very good friends. Ride or dies. I grew up in an all-white community. So when we lived in New Rochelle, it was all blacks. And I didn't even know that I was white until they informed me by calling me a not so pretty word for white people. And then moving back to Pinckney, they called me a not so pretty word for black people. And so I was very confused on top of being angry. So, like I said, everybody had to pay. Everybody had to pay. I was a pretty good, on the outside I looked good kid. I taught Sunday school, and I was a babysitter, and I even did nannying, and I worked at a horse farm. But there was something missing, and that missing went to men. And so I started becoming promiscuous at the age of 16. That was another not good situation. That was with a man who took my virginity all the way, and he was considerably older. And then other men that were older after that. And I guess when you think of it, it was kind of selling your soul, because it was the only way that I thought I could get love. And so that's what I did, which led me to dropping out of college, marrying young, having children young, and I love my children, but I did not know how to be a mom. I damaged them for many years. We are close now. There's still a lot of healing going on with my daughter, but I think one thing that I realized is, even because at one time I hated my mother because she didn't protect me. And I actually hated her until after she died. And I thought I had forgiven her. I thought I had forgiven a lot of people until a few years ago when I was listening to Joyce Meyer speak. And I had heard her tell her testimony so many times. And this one time I was on the treadmill at the gym, and I was watching something, and it was probably, I don't even know, maybe the 20th time I heard her testimony. And I heard her say that she forgave her mom and her dad, and she forgave her dad because she realized that it wasn't him that was raping her. It wasn't him that had molested her, and that it was a spirit of perversion. And I was like, wait, what? Oh, wow. And to step back and think that my mom had insecurities as well, because my mom had me when she was 17. And she was basically abandoned by her dad because she was having black children. And I'm not saying my mom was a princess, because my mom was, not the best kid either, I'm sure. She put my grandparents through the ringer. But when you start thinking about how your parents are healing too, like what happened to them. And I can't remember, I think I was reading a series somewhere around that time by Karen Kingsbury, and it's about this Baxter family. I recommend it to everybody. It goes through all these things that this family went through as a family, and how they would just kept forgiving each other, and it like opened up doors for me to say, wait a minute, I don't want to be this way, and that was after doing the drugs and after being a stripper, and I did so, it doesn't even make sense, the things that I've done. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I was able to forgive Mom, and I was able to forgive Willis. And I realized forgiving them actually sets me free. And is it always easy for me to forgive everybody for everything they do? No, and sometimes I lose my temper. Sometimes I get so angry, and I know that you can't take words back, but I have ruined a lot of relationships with my words. A lot. Back to the promiscuity. I got married young, I had Jocelyn, I was 20 years old. I got married to her father. She just turned 3 when we got married. No, she just turned 2. I'm sorry, she just turned 2. That marriage should not have happened, and my mom tried to talk me out of it, but moms are stupid. They don't know anything anyways. So I did it anyway. And that sped up because we were supposed to get married, and my mom died 2 months before we got married. So we ended up going and eloping. The only drugs that I had ever done before my divorce was I had smoked weed and I had smoked hash. After I divorced, I think that I was trying to be a child. And I became a stripper to pay for divorce, to pay off my debt. And obviously after becoming a stripper, that was the spirit perversion in me, because I had been molested and I had just been giving myself away. So what was one more thing, right? And if you're gonna pay me, even better. I was introduced to cocaine. And you can do anything when you do cocaine. And if you can do anything on anything, that's not good. It's not good. Someone once asked me if I was ever a prostitute. And in the traditional sense, I would say no, because I never sold sex. But if you are stripping on a pole, you're selling sex. It's foreplay. It's pornography. If you are having sex for someone to pay your bills, you're a prostitute. There's just no way around that. You are trading sex for services, which is a prostitute. And that probably will upset a lot of people, and that's okay. That's okay. We all deal with things when it's our time. Because I would have fought somebody at one time and said, that's not true. That's not true. And now looking back, I can see, actually, I was not nice. I was not nice. Realizing that those were people's husbands. Those were people's fathers that were coming to those strip clubs watching me. And they were taking time away from their family to come watch me. And spending thousands of dollars to come watch me. The cocaine got really, really bad. And I almost died from an overdose. I have a scar across my abdomen to remind me of that stint. That was an abdominal hemorrhage in 1999. They had told my parents and my ex-husband that I had a 5% chance of living. 13 days later, I was leaving St. Joe's in Ann Arbor Hospital. And Dr. Robert Mazzio was my physician. And he doesn't know, but he planted another seed, reminding me that I'm supposed to be on this earth. And I listened, but I didn't embrace it when he said it. And he told me when he was discharging me, there is no reason you should be leaving this hospital. No one leaves a hospital from an abdominal hemorrhage. You are bleeding from your abdominal wall, and there is nothing we could do to stop it. Whatever your purpose is, this is when we as surgeons know that there is a God. I suggest you find your purpose. There was a woman that was in the room with me on and off my whole visit. And I've told a couple people this, and I hesitate because I always fear that someone's gonna think that I was crazy. But this woman was supposed to be a nurse. And this woman sat in a chair in the corner almost every day while I was there, but never when somebody else was in the room. And I believe she was an angel. I believe that she was there praying the whole time I was in there. Every time I went down for another CAT scan, every time they did another blood draw, every ultrasound that came in because I couldn't urinate. And she was gone when they discharged. And I never heard from her again, never saw her. And I don't remember her name. but I still see her. I still remember exactly what she looked like sitting in that chair. But even then, I went back to the boyfriend at the time. I went back to the drugs. I went back to the rough life. I went back to stripping. Even then. I'm not sure exactly how the change happened for me. If there's any real such thing as natural, it's definitely supernatural, because for some reason I started dancing less and I started getting real jobs. I was working at a car dealership in the accounting department. And then I decided that I was gonna try to be a flight attendant. And I don't even know how that even came about. I think somebody may have come into the car dealership and told me about it. But I remember on the way to the interview, I made it to the second round of interviews. And on the way there, I just said, Lord, if you do this for me, I'll quit doing drugs. And he did it for me. And I stopped doing drugs for a few years. Actually, from 2001 to 2010. Maybe 2011. 2010 or 11, one of those two. I was drug free. I drank a lot of alcohol still, but I was drug free. And then I got into a bad relationship again. I got sucked right back into that lifestyle of doing drugs and drinking and partying, and unfortunately, I went through a bad phase, and it was several years until God intervened again. And this time he intervened first in 2012 when I had a hysterectomy and I almost died again. And then my Uncle Dennis passed away. Then my stepbrother passed away. And then my stepfather Kenny passed away. And it was all inside of, I can't remember if it was 6 or 8 months. I think Dennis was April. But I got really bad with drugs and alcohol again because everybody was dying. 2014, I decided I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, because now it was not just affecting me, but it was affecting my children. It was affecting my job. It was affecting my health, my weight. And I was deteriorating pretty quick. I was having heart problems and starting to have cardiac profiles and go and do stress tests every 6 months, I think it was. And so I decided I would start getting healthy, but I still didn't get out of the relationship that wasn't healthy for me. And I don't blame that person, because to be clear, I have my own body. I have my own mind. My decisions are my own. And it's important that I share that, because any women that are hearing this, you only give away your power if you give away your power. No one can force you to do anything that you don't consent to give them to. And I'm not talking about if you're raped, because obviously I didn't ask to be molested. But if you are doing drugs, dude, run, because that ain't from God. That ain't. And it took me a while to let that go, because again, that insecurity of nobody else wants me. I'm just a drug addict. I'm just a drunk. Who's gonna want a woman with 3 kids? You know? And I really bought into those lies for a long time. I had very, very, very low standards. And I took a lot of mental abuse from a lot of people. In 2017, on my birthday, I got a call from my best friend. When I say best friend, I mean best friend, like real best friend, not the kind that you just meet a couple of days ago and all of a sudden you're BFFs. Tanya. Tanya is my youngest son's godmother. She's the friend that told me when I was doing drugs, if you don't get it together, I'm not going to be able to be around you because you can't take me down with you. That's a real friend. That's a real friend. Tanya's the one that took me to church. She's the one that told me, even when I was high as a kite, Christine, God loves you. Your children love you. You gotta pull it together, girl. And when I did have it together, and I couldn't find employment, she's a friend that had me live with her, not just me, but me and my 3 kids for a year while she helped me by watching my kids so that I could work 2 jobs and get my credit under control and get the money to get there to get back into an apartment and eventually buy a house. She's the best friend that told her husband before they were married, you think my dad's scary, you gotta meet my best friend Christine. She's the one you really gotta make sure that likes you. She's the one that drove up for my surgeries, for every surgery I ever had, hysterectomies, kidney stones, elective surgeries. She was there. She was my ride or die. We were there for each other's divorces. We were there. So when she called me on my birthday, November 21st, 2017, I knew something wasn't right. And she told me that her cancer, no, she said, I can't breathe. I said, why do you sound like, and at the time I swore, I dropped the S-bomb, I don't swear anymore. And she said, oh girl, I've been in the hospital since Friday. I can't breathe. And I was like, what is going on? But God had told me that her cancer was back. November 30th, she called me FaceTime and told me that it was confirmed cancer, stage 4. It had metastasized to her liver. And I can still see her face when she said, how does it feel hearing me tell you I have stage 4 cancer? And of course, I'm the cheerleader. I'm like, we're gonna fight it. I said, what we're gonna do, we're gonna fight it. I did the research and you can have up to 5 years. I was ready. She wasn't ready. And I heard it in her voice when she said, can you just shave my head? December 5th, that same year, she was called home. While we were all standing around her body, all I could do was just stand there and look. And everybody deals with death differently. But for me, that was the last death that was it. That was it. And I stood there knowing that I was rising in this hour because there had been too many attempts at my life. With my parents dying, my grandmother, with addictions, with me almost dying, with the stupid choices I made over and over again. And I was just starting to get things right, just getting healthy. And I was like, there's no way. I have been healthy for 3.5 years. And I was still partying at the time. But I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And I remember I posted on Facebook, I don't want to be sad anymore. I'm not going to be sad anymore. That year we had gone to my friend and I had gone to a concert, a 444 concert. And that night, even before I knew about Tanya, something was different. something was different because I didn't want to party anymore. I just didn't want to. And then the desire started going away more and more. The following fall, and I know whoever's watching, I get that the Bible doesn't like us tattooing our bodies up, but I felt I needed a fresh start. And so I ended up having Proverbs 19:21 tattooed on my forearm. And instead of having it written like the biblical way, I had it, my friend Jeff is my tattoo artist, and he actually made it sound more like a poem. And it says, "Many are the plans in the mind of the man, but the purpose of the Lord will stand." And at the time, I was angry and I wanted my life to change. The relationship wasn't for me. The job I was working wasn't for me. The anger and sadness and rage that I had that felt like it wanted to come out, it had to come. I had to get rid of it all. And I remember laying in bed October 4th at night and I was whining and I was having conversations with God. And I was like, I hate my job. I hate everything. It's so hard. When is it going to get easier? And God's got jokes. I heard in a very audible voice, "You're the one that always tells people that they can be happy if they want to. Happiness is a choice. Do it." I was looking around like, I'm sorry? And then I realized that, no, I really heard that. And I'm not crazy. I mean, I am, but not for that reason. And then I heard, you're going to get up in the morning and you're going to go to the gym and you're going to carry on like nothing is happening. And so I did. Oh, and I also said to God, I can't just quit my job. I hate it, but how am I going to pay my bills? Well, at 3 o'clock on the 5th, I got laid off. And I would be laid off for almost 7 months so that I would have to lean totally on God for everything, everything, everything. And when I finally got a job again, I had $17 left to my name. Oh, and I'll tell you what I learned is, man, won't God do it? Because I felt like I slid right into home base. Because I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. How are you gonna pay the bills if you've got $17 left? And that was a good part, but the best part is actually the people that I met during my stint of unemployment. The trials that I went through with betrayal, with people that I thought were my friends, showing up. And I can't even say it like a bad thing because they showed up and God showed out. I worship with a group with the Lion's Den mission base here in Fort Lauderdale. And had I not got unemployed, had I not been laid off, had I not come down to Florida, I don't know when I would have met this family. And it's crazy because that was in 2019. And at the time I had my medical marijuana card and I was still medicating at night because I was still having a little bit of dreams from Tanya's death and being traumatized from that. And in August, one of the girls invited me to fast with them. And it was, I didn't even realize you fasted for God. That's number one. All the years that I was raised in the church, I was never taught that was even a thing, or much less the importance of it. I was never taught about demons and good spirits and bad spirits and angels being real. Like we did Easter egg hunting and we did Christmas pageants and, you know, the fun stuff. Like we didn't get deep. Even though I knew I was hearing from God, I also thought I was schizophrenic, so I didn't tell people because they would have they would have tried to lock me up. My biological father was diagnosed schizophrenic. My brother's diagnosed schizophrenic. You know, I don't want to be locked up. I was on a million medications, 15 to be exact. So after I got off all those medications and I was starting to feel good, I was invited to a fast, and why not, right? Well, I have an addictive personality, so I went gangbusters. Being invited to the fast, that was August 2019. I have a very addictive personality. I'm working on not being so addictive. However, when they gave options for a fast, at no point in this fast idea did I see it as an option to do anything than the liquid fast. And the only thing that I did differently was I had an apple for breakfast and an apple after dark. I can tell you, my daughter was worried because she told me I was disappearing. And I didn't feel hungry or anything, so that didn't seem to bother me. But I think that people will sometimes say things like that without realizing that that could be an attempt to trip me up. And I try and pay attention for that now. I did this fast, and there were encounters that I got a lot of knowledge, both from our pastor as well as in my prayer times during a fast. And God rewarded me in that fast, and I can't even explain the depths of how good it was. September 27th, I flew down. Now the fast had been over, but I flew down September 27th. It was Friday night. And I went to a spiritual reset there. And I was standing in the back. There was no way I was going up front because I was watching miracles happen. And I graduated in '88. I saw all the TV shows in the 90s that had healings going on TV. And I thought it was crap. Excuse me, I didn't realize that that was really real. I had no idea that miracles and healing services were a real life thing. No one ever taught me that the Bible is 100% true still. So as I'm standing in back and I'm watching these miracles happen in front of my eyes, I was scared. And I could feel myself wanting to leave. And Elder Jackie came to the back, and she said, "Come on, girl, you're not leaving and going back to Michigan the same way that you came down." And I was like, "Psh, yeah, I am." And she's like, "No, come on, girl." And I remember she walked me up to the front, and Pastor Jay was at the front. But when I'm looking at him, and he says to me, "You're not going back the same way you came. You think you came all the way down from Michigan and you're gonna go back there like this? I don't think so, not on my watch." And then I remember it was almost like leaping on him, and I definitely believe that was my spirit. And then I can't remember all that he said, but all I can see still to this day, like it was like yesterday, is I can see that mouth, his mouth, but it was not his mouth. And it was the wildest thing I've ever seen. And the whole experience was, I still describe it, and I don't have another way. It was like being in Willy Wonka when they're going through that tunnel. When they're doing "there's no other way of knowing," and Gene Wilder is doing his knowing. And I remember Edie Bell and Pastor Natalie and Jackie and Pastor Jay all having their hands on me, and I can hear the voices in my head telling me what to say, and then the other voices telling me not to say it, and then it was getting louder and louder and louder until all of a sudden I can feel it, just words coming out of my mouth. And I still remember it was Aste Testerusa. And it was the craziest, wildest thing because I thought it was fake. I really believed that those were my words and some jumble that was coming out of my mouth. But I would hear it again after that. And I would hear it again after that. That was a gift of tongues. That was me receiving Holy Spirit. That was deliverance. All the way. It's hard to explain how I had already known that I was hearing God, and I had been sharing with a couple of people at the den that I was hearing God, and they had been directing me on moving and what to pack since April, earlier that year. My kids thought I was crazy because I literally had boxes in my living room. I was getting rid of clothes. One of my girlfriends in Michigan was watching me pack. My friend's father had been witnessing it, and I had been discussing it with them. Always share, because when God tells you something, you got those people who know your testimony. They know, and it cannot be denied because you put it out there. As I was studying more, obviously, I'm sticking around now because this is a real thing. And I know that there's other people who, if I'm going to be crazy, at least I got a family to be crazy with, right? And they're invested on not telling me that I need to tithe to them, not telling me that I need to do this, that, and the other. I'm being taught in that hour, and still, you need to hear God. You need to hear God. You don't need to hear me, you need to hear God. You need to hear God. That's where you're safe. And being able to have a place where you can talk about you hearing from God, so that it's getting more and more powerful. So that the next fast, I went to eat my edible for the night, and I heard God tell me, no, we're done with that. I'm done with that. Well, how am I going to sleep? You're done with that. And I have not touched a single thing. Not an edible, not a Vicodin, not a nothing since then. And I'm almost 3 years cigarette free now. There are miracles. And as you grow, as you choose to grow and you choose to get rid of, and people act like getting rid of stuff is a bad thing. Dude, we get rid of garbage all the time. We throw it right on out. And these bad habits I had, they were garbage. They were garbage. The lifestyle I was leading was garbage. It was beneficial to no one. And as I surrendered, I began to hear God more. Since I've moved down here, I have healed even more because I have done a couple of healing sessions with Dr. Verna Barabug. I recommend her highly. I got to realize and discover that actual healing is talking about it. And I don't have to be this bad that has to take on the world all by myself. I've gotten to learn that I can be a jerk, and God already knew I was going to be a jerk. And he's like, look, dude, you were a jerk. I need you to fix it. And it's okay to fix it. I'll be bold enough to say that a year ago, when we were going to do this testimony and post it on Facebook, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I was afraid of what other people might think. I was afraid that my family would disown me. I was afraid that I would lose my job. I was afraid that people would judge me. I was afraid. Last fall, God told me that I would be sharing my testimony publicly. And I let Beebs know, and she was totally open to it. The other night, I let Beebs know that I had heard that we were gonna, I can't remember if we were redoing it or if we were redoing it, right? Yeah. The other night, I was talking to Beebs, and God told me that we were gonna be sharing my testimony, and the anniversary from the last post was March 5th. Well, I'm Christine, and I struggle with pride still, and I struggle with the spirit of fear and intimidation. But what I don't struggle with is that I know that there's another little girl, there's another wife, there's another mother that's confused. And someone told you that it's your fault, that everything you've ever done is because you are a whore, or because of something your mother did, or because of some hereditary thing. And I want you to know that that's not true. That's not true, baby. You have purpose. And the world doesn't like strong women with purpose. And so they will try everything they can to shut us down. They will tell you you're crazy. They will tell you it's anxiety, it's depression, it's menopause, it's PMS. You're just crazy. They will tell you everything. They will tell you your mother was an addict, so of course you're going to be an addict. Your mother was a drunk, you're going to be a drunk. That's not true. My mother was an addict. My mother was a drunk. My mother died at the age of 40. I'm 50 and I'm alive. I'm alive. Not only am I alive, but I'm thriving. And I promise my children will not see me go down back to drugs, because now I walk in purpose. Now I walk with a purpose and a cause. For you, little girl, that person that touched you inappropriately, I can't save you, but God can. I can love on you. I can let you know you're not alone. For that addict who thinks that if they pick up that straw or that pipe, that all your problems will be solved, that's not true. That's a lie. Your problems are going to be 10 times worse tomorrow. Put it down. Put it down. For the mom that walked away from her kids like I did, because I didn't have time, and I was trying to do the career, and then I was trying to get drunk, and then I was trying to do everything else, guess what? I'm back. And my kids are worth it. And my granddaughter's worth it. Failure is not final. And you only fail when you quit. And there are plenty of people like Dear Diaries and Dr. Bug and myself. There are so many organizations that want to help you, that want to show you the love of God for real. And I know that there's some people that are gonna mock and make jokes, and that's okay. You're just not ready. I'm gonna love you anyway. You'll be ready. You'll be ready. Because I'm praying and I am interceding. Because somebody did for me. Someone did for me. And it started with my grandmother. And I don't know who else, but I know God has always had my back. He always had my back. And that's why I sit on this couch today. Because he knew I would be sitting on this couch today. He knew that I love people. He knew that all those years that I thought I hated women and that they were too much and they were obnoxious, yeah, that was a lie too. That was a lie, because if I believed that and I kept buying into it, then God's seed in me would be destroyed. And it's not. We just did a fast in January. And during that fast, I again almost lost my life. A car T-boned me. And you know what happened? That pissed me off. Because now I'm coming out blazing. You gonna take my life, devil? You're gonna have a whole army of angels to fight you now. I want to love everybody, and I just want one soul to hear this and know that my words are true. Because they're not just my words. God gave them to me. Can't nobody love you like God can, and I don't care what anybody says. Your mama ain't gonna love you like that. Your sister, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, it doesn't matter. Nobody has your back like God does, and I am sitting here as a testimony of life, Because by all in the natural, I should not be here. I should not. But I am, because even when I was high, I was singing praises to the Lord. Even when I was high, I was dancing and singing BB and CC Winans. Even when my best friend died, I was like, Lord, what are you gonna do? Even when I lost my job, And yes, that's recorded as well. When I lost my job that very same day, God, you can't really just throw me out now. I just got a tattoo on my arm. You're gonna take care of me. I said it. I believe it. What are you gonna do? And even when I was crying in the bottom of the shower, while I was in a mansion on the other side of Florida and miserable, I knew he's coming back for me. And actually, he's probably standing right there. He's just watching. He's like, girl, I got you. You worried about nothing. I got you. And for those people who ask, where was God? Where was my God when I was being molested? When I was being raped? He was right there. He was right there. I don't know what he's doing with that other person, but I can tell you this. One thing I know for sure. Those who come against God's children will be better off having a cinder block around their neck and tossed in the middle of an ocean. And I do not wish any harm to that man. I do not wish any harm to any of those men. I love you. I forgive you. And I pray for your salvation if it has not already happened, because I don't know. And I'm not going to bed angry at anybody for what they didn't know, because I sure didn't know about God. I didn't know. I didn't know that he really cared, because nobody ever told me, and nobody ever proved it. They sang hymns, they sang songs, they quoted Bible scripture, oh, real good, real good. But none of them could tell me what it meant. None of them. I can tell you what it means. It means he's here. And if you'll put down Netflix, if you'll put down that blunt, if you'll put down that shot glass or that straw, if you'll take off the stilettos and sit down a minute, spend some time with God. Watch how he comes to you. Watch how he shows up and starts talking to you too, because he doesn't just talk to me. That's for everybody. That's for everybody. I'm not special. I'm not special. Not any more special than you. Know this. Please know this. My name is Christine. This has been my testimony, my share, my story, coming to you from BB and Dear Diaries. I love you.
Hello.